Hey, tonight I'm going to be talking about a game called Blokus. It's a family game for 2 to 4 players. I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. Setting up a game of Blokus is easy. You just pull out the board, which in this case is plastic grid. You can't really see it, but these lines are raised, which is nice, makes it hold the pieces really well. And then each player gets a bag full of plastic pieces. Each one has a different shape. No two are identical, but the pieces that each player has are identical, an identical set of pieces apart from the color. The game is played always in the order of the blue player, yellow, red, and then green. And the blue player will go first. On his turn, he is going to pick one of his pieces, any of them, doesn't matter which one, and he's going to play it. The first piece you play has to cover a corner square. So, for example, that would be a legal move, but something like that would not be. So let's say he plays like that. Then the yellow player gets to take his turn. He's going to maybe play this piece like so. And the red player will go ahead and put a piece down like that. And the green player will go ahead and put his piece there. Now, back to the blue player. For his second piece, he has to play it so that one corner, or I should say a corner of one square of the piece, is touching a corner of one square of another piece. However, an edge of a square of his new piece cannot be touching an edge of a square of an old piece. They could have multiple corners touching, like for example, you could play like this. You have, they're touching at those corners and those corners. That's legal. But again, something like that or like that would not be legal. Okay. Let's go ahead and put it like that. The yellow player again is going to play, another piece, perhaps like so, and the red player another piece, perhaps like so, and the green player here, and so forth and so on. Now, as you start to get into each other's territory, you can play your pieces around your opponent. You could play maybe something like that. That could effectively block the yellow player from playing any more pieces off in that direction, but he could still play a piece, maybe even like so, off that corner there. But now, the blue player, if he wanted to, could sort of jump through this gap, so to speak, and play another piece like so, and so forth and so on. The red player might eventually make his way over there with a piece, and now he's really complicating things. The object is to get as many of your pieces as you can on the board. At the end of the game, you're going to count all the squares on all your pieces that are not on the board, and that's how many points you're going to get. And the goal is to get the lowest number of points possible. You get a special bonus if you play all your points, all your pieces, and you play the smallest piece, which is just one lonely square, last. And that's basically how the game works. There's variations for 3 players where each player chooses a color and then they alternate playing the 4th color and ignore any scoring for that 4th color. And you can play it with 2 players where each player gets alternating colors. So one player would get blue and red and the other would get yellow and green. And then again they would play and they'd add their score together at the end of the game to see who can get the better score. And that's how the game works. So before I give my thoughts on Blokus, I just wanted to correct something I noticed in my explanation video. At the end there, when I was explaining how you get your score at the end of the game, I kind of messed up there. And so really what you do is you add up all the squares on the pieces that you weren't able to play, and then you subtract that from your score. So your score will most likely end up being a negative value, but it's the higher value that wins. So like a -5 would beat a -15, for example. Just a technicality, really. It doesn't change the way that the game works or anything. Just wanted to get that out there before somebody calls foul on me having explained the rules wrong. Now, having been said, my thoughts on Blokus is that it's a very creative game. I have to say that it's a very creative idea. I love how it has like a very tactile element to it. You know, each piece is physically different from the other pieces, and how that piece works is built into the shape of the piece. It's not like a game where you might have a deck of cards and each card can do something different based on the text on the cards. I love those kinds of games, but this is interestingly different in that each piece kind of works differently from all the other pieces, but how it works is built into the shape of the piece and how it literally fits on the board. So that's really interesting. I think that's really creative. And overall, the components of the game are really good. I like how that board has the raised grid and the way the pieces are designed to kind of snap into that grid a little bit. So they're not sliding all over the place or anything. That's really, really well designed altogether. The game uses some kind of very rudimentary skills that we develop in like preschool. That being understanding the shape of something and how it will fit on the board, you know, how the shape of this object will occupy space, and being able to fit it in with other shapes. So because of that, I think just about anybody can grasp the basic concepts of this game in like a minute. And then before too long, they'll understand the more in-depth strategies of it, as far as how you place your pieces, where you place them, so that you can get as many of your own pieces out on the board, but also try and block your opponents. You know, there's that nuance to the strategy. And again, I think while that might take a little bit longer to come, you could still, most people will pick up on that pretty quick. The only thing I don't like about the game really is the 3-player option. It just feels a little bit strange having that 4th color on there that you alternate playing. I just feel like that kind of takes a certain rhythm out of the game in some way. So I really prefer it with 2 players or 4 players. I think 4 players is just more fun because the more the merrier. But 2 players works pretty well as well. And overall, I think it's a great game. It's not a really deep strategy game. I'd say it's maybe comparable to, like, say, checkers, about that type of strategy. But I think it's a good game for younger players, or for people who are not really into strategy gaming. You know, this would be a kind of a light strategy game that they could grasp really quickly and enjoy. So overall, a great game for families, especially if you have young people, or if you have people who are not really into deep strategy gaming, you know, but you would like to include them in your game night. Blokus is a great game for that.